Medfield TV presents Meet the Candidates, interviews with other citizens running for local offices. This series is brought to you by the joint efforts of Carol Mayer, Town Clerk, Kevin Murphy, Medfield High School Social Studies teacher, Aditi Tate, Cheryl Dunley, and the staff of Medfield TV. I'm Lily Jackson from Medfield High School. I will be posing questions to the candidate. He'll have 2 minutes to respond to each question. At the end of the questioning period, the candidate will have 2 additional minutes to address the TV audience. Today we are interviewing Mike Pastore. He is a candidate running for the office of Selectman. This position is a 3-year term, and there is 1 position open, and he is running opposed. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Lily, thanks. Happy to be here and happy to talk with you.
Yeah, I'm excited too. First off, why do you want to run for this office?
It's a great question to start off with, and for me, it's a really easy answer. I love this town, and I want to give back. But since I have 2 minutes, I'll expand on that a little bit. My wife Jessica and I moved here just under 2 years ago. And we had been looking in Medfield for almost 2 years before that. And the reason we chose Medfield is we just really fell in love with it. The community feel, the school system, the history, the people, just everything about it. So for us, it was really it was Medfield or bust. And it took a while, but we did finally find a house that we could afford and that worked for our family. We have a 4-year-old son and a 1.5-year-old daughter now, and they love Medfield too. It did take a while to get here, but we knew this is where we wanted to live. And as I was growing up, my parents really instilled in me the idea that public service is important, and that we have the opportunity and really the obligation to give back to our community and to do the best we can for our neighbors. And I knew that when I found a place to settle down that I would want to do that. And I think that this open seat for Selectman really provides a great opportunity to do just that. And I think there are a number of interesting and important issues that are before Medfield right now and that are going to affect not just our immediate future, but 5, 10, 15 years down the road. And I want to do all I can to do the best for Medfield as those issues come up.
And you said that you moved here 2 years ago.
Yep.
What past experiences do you have that would help you with this position?
So actually, my first job out of college at BC was as a legislative aide to a state representative, the Mass State House, and then worked myself through law school as a budget and policy analyst. Also at the State House, and it was an amazing experience, and I really learned a lot. And some of the most important things I learned that I think would help me in this position is I know how to look at and read a public budget. I know how to draft budget amendments and draft legislation. I did a lot of work in doing both those things to help seniors, veterans. Local municipalities, in schools, and that's an experience I think that would really help me in this position on this side of it rather than on the State House. There are some differences there, but I know how to navigate that world. And another skill that I picked up along the way is dealing with legislators and state agencies and community leaders, businesses, etc. In people with different opinions and different ideas, and candidly, different agendas in many cases, and try to work towards a common goal. And I would draw on that experience a lot if I was lucky enough to be selectman.
Mm-hmm. If there is one thing that you'd want voters to know about you, what would it be?
Well, we just talked about the State House thing, so I'll go in a little different direction. At BC, I was actually a history major, and I know you're looking to be a poli-sci major, but if I can make a plug for history, it was I actually went in thinking I was going to be poli-sci as well, but there was a time when I thought I would probably end up being a on-call historian for TV, TV documentaries, but that didn't work out. But I still, I love history. I still consider myself a student of history. And my first purchase, actually, when we moved to Medfield, was Richard de Sorger's book, Fleetwood Nine, a history of Medfield. I have a signed copy, and I've read it cover to cover. I do every so often I'll do a little of my own research on the history of the town, which I find fascinating. And I certainly couldn't go toe to toe with Mr. DeSorger, but I feel like I could hold my own if they had a Medfield Jeopardy.
A big issue with the town of Medfield is communication through the offices. If you're elected, how would you increase this and change it?
That's actually an aspect that I do think the current Board of Selectmen does a really, really fantastic job at. Mark Fisher, the outgoing selectman, is always out there in the community and open to speak to anyone that wants to talk about issues. Mike Marcucci has a great Facebook page where he runs down the most recent Board of Selectmen meetings, and Pete Osler has a really nice blog. If you've ever had a chance to look at it, where he really sets forth the major issues that are affecting Medfield, and I've found all of those things very useful. So that's something I'd like to continue. If lucky enough to be elected selectman. But for my purposes, in the campaign, trying to get out and meet people, I put together a campaign business card that has my email address, Facebook page, and my personal cell phone. And I do that because I really want people to reach out. And I do think communication is important and transparency is important. And if there's anyone that wants to discuss the issues, what's on their mind, discuss the campaign, or down the road, if I'm lucky enough to be selectman, I want to discuss what's in front of the Board of Selectmen. I think it would be incumbent upon me as an elected official to do everything I can to be accessible and be visible in the community.
And as you campaign, what has been like the biggest challenge that you've faced?
So I mentioned, trying to get out there and meet as many people as possible, and especially since, I've only been here for about 2 years, that's a real challenge. And I set a goal for myself before the campaign started that I wanted to meet everyone in Medfield. Which is obviously a really lofty and nearly impossible goal to meet. And so, the challenge there is there's really just not enough time in the day. But that's really been a focus of my campaign. I had a coffee hour at Brothers a couple weeks ago where I just kind of sent out some emails and put on my Facebook page, I'll be here for an hour, please come by. And that was a great way to really get out and meet a number of people at once and to hear their concerns. And so I'm trying to do more things like that. I feel like I'm at a community meeting every other night and just trying to make phone calls and make connections, because I really think in any elected position, but especially a town the size of Medfield and in a position like the Board of Selectmen, it's just so important to make that one-to-one connection. And again, it's difficult to meet as many people as I'd like, but I'm hoping to get as close to that goal as possible by the 27th, and certainly beyond if I'm lucky enough to be elected.
Yeah. The town of Medfield has also requested to build several housing projects throughout Medfield. And if any of these pass, how will this impact your board or position?
Well, I mean, that really goes back to the 40B issue that we were talking about, and I'm glad you asked that question, because it does underscore how important an issue this is to the town. We narrowly escaped the Medfield Meadows recently, and you certainly don't want to see that come up again. So how I would deal with that is, I don't really look at it as a case-by-case, development-by-development issue. I look at it as a greater Medfield plan issue. It is, again, I said this before, but let's consider what we need to do now in the short term and 5, 10, 15 years down the road. And that is how I would approach that issue as far as developments go. But there is another side to 40B, I think, that does bear discussing, and it's, obviously we want to get to the 10%. We want to be, in control of our own destiny, but it's also, we don't want to forget, the purposes of affordable housing and what kind of community do we want to be as Medfield. Medfield has been so tremendously welcoming to me and my family and to so many of us, and people want to live here and people love living here, and having good affordable housing for people to do so is a part of that. So it's not just hitting the state mandate, but it's actually having a plan and implementing it where it helps all of Medfield and not just a portion. And that having been said, when we do that, we need to consider what fits in with the character of the community, and not have a Medfield Meadows shoehorned into that small area near Dale Street. Where
would you suggest putting it?
That's a good question, and I think when the state hospital plans kind of come more to fruition, that's going to be a major possibility for 40B housing, but also for affordable senior housing, which doesn't fit into to 40B. They came up with the 4 concepts for the state hospital last week, which are great, and some of that does include 40B housing. So that is an option, and that's something that we would have to consider. But as far as specific locations, again, I see this more as a comprehensive plan rather than picking and choosing. I think you should go there. I think you should go over there. I think we need to make something that is a cohesive design and that makes sense for the community as a whole.
Yeah, and as you've been meeting people and campaigning, people have obviously had a lot of different opinions about
Sure.
this. Absolutely. How do you deal with the negative pushbacks that you get?
So you know what, I don't feel like I've gotten a lot of negative pushback. I feel like people. You're absolutely right. People have different opinions, but I feel like everyone I've met in Medfield, at least, they want to do what's best for Medfield as a whole, and people have different opinions about that. But I certainly haven't heard anyone say absolutely not, no affordable housing. Let's stop that conversation right here. I mean, people do have different ideas, and I think it's important to have those conversations. And the state hospital presentation last week is a great example of that. You had these 4 different vision concepts, and so many people attended that and were interested at looking and talking about each one. And that's the Medfield I found as I've campaigned, is people are really open to ideas. People really want to discuss what's best for the town and where we're going in the future, and how we're going to get there together. And to me, it's been all positive conversation. As you noted, different opinions, but we can have these different opinions and talk about the best way to go forward.
Yeah, definitely. You now have 2 minutes to address the TV audience and say what you want.
Okay. Well, I'd like actually to start this where I began today, which is, I love Medfield and I want to serve the community. I want to give back, and I feel like this open seat for selectmen provides a great opportunity to do so. I feel like I have the background and the skills to really do what's best for Medfield, and to listen to the community, to really take in what people have to say, and to sit down and come up with thoughtful plans for where Medfield is going to be going 5, 10, 15 years down the road. I think there's a lot of interesting and important issues that are going to be before the Board of Selectmen, and I look forward to tackling those if lucky enough to be elected. I would love to meet, as I said, every resident of Medfield, and I'm going to do my best to get out there over the next month and attempt to do so. But if you're watching at home and would like to reach out to me, my email address is mikep4medfield@gmail.com, And I look forward to talking with you in the future about what's best for Medfield and where we're going. So I want to thank Medfield TV and thank you, Lily. It was great to talk to you, and I look forward to seeing everyone on the campaign trail.
Thank you so much for participating. And please remember that democracy is not a spectator sport, so please come vote at the center of Ice House Road on Monday, March 27th from 6 to 8 p.m.